Well, good morning, folks. It's Richard the Fishing Machine here. You know, folks, there's no doubt in my mind one of my favorite ways to target and catch crappie is fishing boat docks. And the reason why is because normally these fish are easy to pattern on just about any lake once you find out how deep the crappie are, how much water is under a dock, and the location of the dock. And what I mean by that dock could be on a point, that dock could be back up in a slough in the very back end. There's a lot of different patterns to work with. Y'all get the gist. And this is no doubt a very productive way to catch crappie, and a lot of crappie. And when I'm talking about fishing docks, I'm talking about each and every dock is unique to the next one. In fact, I look at each dock as its own separate aquarium. Some of these aquariums have more water up under them, some are shallower, mid-depth, and deeper. Okay, but what I'm looking for is shad. That is very, very important. Shad being around the docks or out from the docks. Well, and most of the time, especially in late summer, if you find and locate shad on the outside edges of docks, these shad are actually going to be weaving in and out of these docks under the shade. And that's where the crappie are. They're going to be waiting in ambush, folks. So it's trial and error, fishing different depths of docks, okay, and fishing them thoroughly. Once you start catching crappie, well, you can develop a pattern very quick. One of my favorite setups for this type of fishing is a jig pole, just a simple jig pole. My favorite jig pole, well, is a Sam super sensitive jig pole. It's 9'3" long, plenty of tip action, very light rod. Now folks, let's check this combination out right here. This is unique. Let's look at the reel first. This is a model 80 Johnson demonstrator. There's very few of these made. 1954 model. I've often said that it was 1943 or something like that. I was mistaken. 1954 is when it was made. Very unique reel. As you can see, the line comes out of the side right here. Very good reel for vertical jigging. And coupled up with this light rod, it is very balanced and lightweight. Now, what I'm using right here is 6-pound test Mr. Crappie mono. But this is an old trick which we were talking about that I used to use years ago. I'm going to start doing this again, especially when crappie are shallow. Now here's my Mr. Crappie high-vis line, and then you notice I have a double uni knot right there for the connection, and I have about a 6-foot leader, and it could be either mono or a fluorocarbon. It don't make any difference, but it's also a 6-pound test leader. Now, why I do that is because oftentimes these crappie will be shallower than 6 feet. So you can keep up when you get bit by a crappie. Let's say you're always watching this knot. Let's say you get bit approximately a foot below that knot. Oh my goodness, you automatically know the depth of the crappie. Once you release that crappie or put him in the bucket if you're going to eat him, you can go ahead and get that jig right back real quick in the same location and keep that jig 1 foot below that knot. Like here's the water line right there, 1 foot, and you'll get bit again. You can catch crappie after crappie after crappie like that by finding the correct depth. And usually when they're that shallow, I'll use a 1 32nd ounce jig head, and of course the jig of your choice. It don't make any difference. couple that up with a loop knot, and it's a very effective way for vertical jigging. It just is. That loop knot will allow that bait to come up into a horizontal position just like a minnow swims, because it's loose from the eyelet. That plastic will float it up just like that. So when you let the bait drop, it'll fall in a natural way, and a lot of times it will spin down, and that's a great way to trigger a strike. It looks like a dying bait fish. Hey man, woo, woo, woo. Wow, he bumped it. There he is. Good one. Come on out of there. Good one. Now that fish is doing some fighting. Yeah. This is a good crappie right here. My goodness. Come on up here. Wow. What a fish. That's not a giant, folks. By no means. But it's a good, solid crappie there. I'm getting excited because the better fish are starting to bite. Now, I knew they would after I caught the smaller fish out. I had to catch them because they was beating the better fish to the bait. Let's let him go. And I want to share a tip with y'all right here. And I wanted to leave it for probably close to the last. But the reason why, now this is the line I'm using right here. This is 6-pound test Mr. Crappie line right here. That knot right there, that connection is a double uni knot. Now I have a piece of fluorocarbon leader tied on here, not so to be invisible to the crappie. Crappie are line shy, they don't care about that. The reason why I tied a 6-foot leader, or approximately a 6-foot leader, to this is so I knew these fish would be relatively shallow here on this lake. So see, that gives me something to look at. You got high vis line coming off of the main reel, then the fluorocarbon, that knot, the transition right there. I can keep up with that and tell about how deep those fish are hitting at all times. It's just a little trick that'll help you put more fish in the boat, just by you knowing how much line is exposed. In other words, here's the knot. Let's say the fish are hitting 4 feet deep. Right here, you can judge 2 feet from the knot to where you're getting the bites, and that's how deep you can keep that jig at all times, and that cause you to catch those crappie just like that. You're maintaining proper depth. Now I don't have to do that. Over the years I have trained myself by experience on the water out here where I don't have to do that, but it's a great thing to do anyway. I started off doing that years ago, and then I quit because I got a feel for where my jig was, how deep it was. But when I first started off, that's how I did that. Now I'm going to go back to that. There's a lot of little tricks like that in crappie fishing that causes you to catch far more fish, folks. All right, let's put it right back there. Now watch this. Y'all see that? Golly. I've done caught probably 50 crappie right here. And I should just move across the lake right here and find some bigger fish. But I'm having fun. Okay, folks, let's just go ahead and demonstrate this just right. What I'm going to do is make the presentation, get bit, and and then, you know, bring the crappie to me. That's all they are to it. Once you feel that like snapping your finger type bite, just set the hook right then. You don't have to wait around and all that stuff. See, it's in his mouth. just as soon as you feel it, just go ahead and set the hook. That crappie inhales that bait. He opens these little gills like this and his mouth at the same time. He inhales water and the bait in at one time. That ain't much of a crappie, but just gonna hold it right in front of his face. Pick that rod tip up a little bit, let the jig fall. Let it fall about a foot, and that's about all I need, because I know exactly how deep these fish are. There he is. Oh my. Come on out of there. That's a good one. That's what we're talking about. Yep. That's what we're talking about. When I thorned him, I knowed. Folks, I knowed that was a good one. Darn good one too. I missed him the first time. There's another deal right there. That's a great tip. That's a good fish right there. There ain't nothing wrong with that one. Let's let him go. Go on back, boy. Look here, folks. When you miss a fish, get that jig back in there just quick as possible. The quicker the better. See, that fish is already fired up. He's ready to bite. You just missed him. But put it in the exact place again, just as quick as you can. You'll find out that, I'm going to say 80% of the time, you'll get that fish to bite again. Sometimes you have to pick that bait up a couple feet and let it fall. And they'll hit it on the fall. That's what it takes that particular day or the time that you're fishing to get them to bite. And sometimes once you find their depth, just by holding that jig in front of their face like that and just barely moving it back and forth just enough to make that jig quiver is what it takes to catch them on that day. And sometimes just picking it up a foot and then let it fall back is what it takes. There's a lot of different presentations. There's more than that. But once you find out the ticket or the trick to catching them that day, it'll cause you to catch a lot more fish. No doubt. That old man's got one hair on the end of his nose. I know it's 1.5 inches. Let's see if we can catch one right here. I missed one right here this morning. And I remembered exactly. Golly, did y'all see that? I missed him again. Doggone it. Let's go ahead and catch that crappie. Now, doggone it, here's the third chance I've had. There he is. That ain't a bad one either. Come on up here. Golly, it's really a good one. A good fish. Woo-wee. I was trying to hold right there, but I couldn't. The wind, y'all can see how fast I'm blowing. And that wind is really, really blowing. But look at that hook set. Right in the roof of the mouth. That's what you want. Right there. He'd never come off. Let's let him go. Good fish. Go on back, boy. Crappie fishing 101. There he is. Good one. That's a good crappie right here. Golly. That may be the biggest one I've caught today. That's a sow cow right here. And I knew it when I stuck him. Sure did. My. I mean, when I stuck this fish, folks, it was just thump. No doubt about it. I mean, that fish didn't move a muscle. I think I'm just... Yeah. That's the biggest one I've caught today. That's the kind I love to catch right there. Biggins. There we go. That's what we're talking about right there, folks. And he ate that bait. I knew that was a good fish. When that fish hit it, he hit it just like that. And when I boom right back, that rod bowed up in a knot, and I didn't hardly move him out of there. Easy. I had to come on out with him. But that's the kind of fish that I like to catch. I've only had one crack at a pretty good fish, and that was it. That's summertime fishing. Oftentimes. Let's let him go. Let's revive that one. That's a good fish right there. There she goes. Best part of it. If you ain't gonna eat them, release them for somebody else to catch. Let's catch another. Hey man, whoa. Hey man, whoa, whoa, whoa. I want to say God bless each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for all the great comments. Everything that y'all do for this channel. Hey man, woo. A drillagin, a drillagin, a drillagin. A drillagin, a drillagin. And remember, go fishing when you can, because it's good for you.